sheriff of Marion County now has been under indictment, and the grand jury came back with some sharp, harsh criticisms, Tom, of what they said that Chris Blair was complicit in doing. Without getting into it too deep, just read the summary, and I want to ask Chief Greg Graham, not about that case necessarily, or he can comment what he wants to, but I want to get his take on what do you do with your officers, your patrolmen who are out there dealing with the bad guys that you want to apprehend. How far can they go, and what do you do to coach them? Because you are the coach. You're the one who sets the bar. So read the story and let's ask Chief Greg Graham about that.
This is from the grand jury, the Marion County grand jury. They said, we looked into 6 incidents that alleged excessive use of force by MCOSO deputies. Our main focus was not on the episodes themselves. We looked to see if there were common elements of these incidents that would show why they occurred, determine if these incidents were evidence of broader department-wide issues. They said the grand jury concluded that these 6 incidents were not isolated incidents, and that those few deputies who were responsible for the incidents of excessive force did so in part because of the words and actions or inactions of the sheriff and his administration.
Yeah, and to sum it up, the grand jury issued a scathing criticism of lax and incompetency from Sheriff Chris Blair. All right, now that sets the table for Chief of Police of Ocala, Greg Graham, to talk about that culture and what you do with your officers, how you train them to be aggressive and yet pull them back when they go too far. It's a constant challenge, I would imagine.
So, everything I'm going to say is in generalities of how we run the police department or how I run the police department. But, these men and women go through a lot of training even before they become certified. And then once they are certified and they get hired, they go through a field training program. And then, the overall tone, culture, and expectations within the organization is set by the chief administrator, which is me at the Ocala Police Department. So, and I've talked about these rules that I have in my organization before on the show. Do the right thing, ask forgiveness instead of permission, find ways to say yes, treat everyone with respect, and have fun. So you give them those broad parameters of how to deal with people, how to police people, but they also have to abide by the Constitution, the laws, and they have to treat people like people. So as you go throughout the day, throughout the weeks, throughout the months, you will get complaints or compliments about your officers. And the thing that you have to do as an administrator is every time somebody comes in and offers a complaint on an officer, you have to look into it. Every single one. You have to investigate it. Now, it depends on the complaint, depends on the level of investigation you do, but you investigate it because you want to make sure that everybody's doing the right thing and everybody's acting right and not violating anyone's rights and certainly not beating people up. I was in internal affairs for a period of time during my career, and my whole thing was my role as the internal affairs investigator was to protect bad citizens against. Hang on a second, let me get this right. Protect citizens against bad cops.
Right.
Protect cops against bad citizens, and to protect the chief from both.
Okay.
Right.
Makes sense.
Right.
So. You investigate these things, and if the officer has done something wrong, then you deal with it and you impose discipline, whatever level of accountability that has to be done. If the officer didn't do anything wrong, then you celebrate that by the officer did the right thing. And if the citizens lied about it, then you take action or you try to hold them accountable as well. And that sets the tone in the organization that there are certain lines you cannot cross. There are certain things that you absolutely cannot do. I don't tolerate excessive force. I don't tolerate lying. I don't tolerate people being disrespectful to our citizens. In fact, I just terminated an employee 2 weeks ago for that very thing, for being incredibly disrespectful to a citizen. So it's that tone from the head of the organization that has to filter throughout the organization.
Now, it's changed, Tom, a lot in the last 10 years with video.
You would think, has the introduction of video changed the belief of law enforcement in the case of excessive force, that they now are cognizant of it? So has that helped bring about a downsizing, not downsizing, but less excessive force?
So, yeah, I think so. Yeah, in a lot of cases, you know, we've had in-car video cameras for years. We've had body cameras for years, not as many as we have now, but it's less to do with in-car cameras and body cameras. That the recognition of the officers that they can be anywhere and be videotaped. You know, the fortunate thing with OPD is we don't get a lot of excessive force complaints. Our officers act right. You've never seen a Ocala police officer on YouTube, you know, snatching somebody's telephone because they're video recording them. Because, you know, my guys and girls know. It's like, and they will tell them, yeah, you want to video me, video me. I'm videoing you. So, and I'm not doing anything I shouldn't be doing.
So you welcome that. It's no problem.
Right. And for the most part,
As long as you're not impeding the investigation or what the officer's doing.
Right. And, you know, and unless you're inside the crime scene and you're tapping the officer or you're getting in their face, you know, videoing something is not that big of a deal. Now, we may ask somebody for their name, or we may try to identify them because they may have captured something on their video that we want, right, for evidence purposes. But, you know, the good thing about certainly the officers with Ocala PD is, you know, they're smart enough to know, and this isn't saying that the MCSO isn't, they are, but they're smart enough to realize that, you know, they gain their identity by who they are, not by what they do. So, you know, they don't get goaded into arguments with citizens where, you know, especially with the ones that are trying to, you know, that are protesting or trying to bait the officers into doing something. They're smart enough not to get involved in stuff like that. So, and when they do it and we know it, we recognize them and congratulate them and tell them what a great job they're doing because they didn't immerse themselves in that kind of stuff. But yeah, it all comes from the top.
Keep an eye on everything, watching the video, processing complaints, and remembering that you have an obligation to the citizens to protect them and from
Absolutely.
abusive and setting the standard is the job you have. And
Right.
appreciate that very much.